Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth session of the Youth Leadership Training of the year. Session 4, Event Planning and Fundraising. I'll wait for everyone to get settled in. We already have our amazing speakers with us. Hope you can see everyone. Just waiting for everyone to get into the meeting. I have a great icebreaker. Our participants, if you feel like participating in this as well, feel free to contribute. But it would be lovely to know what your favorite ocean-centered event was that you've attended and what made it so memorable. Feel free to also let us know where you're connecting from. It would be lovely to know. Yeah, let's get started in a minute. In the meantime, looking forward to seeing what your favorite ocean event was. Okay, I see we have Jason John from India. We have Frankly Gomez from the Philippines. Mikai from Papua New Guinea. Thank you for joining us today. Also, it'd be lovely to know what time zones everyone's in. We already have a lot of diversity on the on the speaker front. Um, Perfect. I'll give it a few more seconds and then we can get started. A lot of people from the Philippines tonight. It's super, very, very nice to see that. There's been a lot of action going on that front as well. Hopefully, we can get more events on World Ocean Day this year. Australia. Okay, I think we can get started. Everyone gets settled in. I will start by saying that if you missed a session, please feel free to watch the recordings on our YouTube channel. The first two are available, and the third and fourth will be published after this weekend, when we go through the last session today. But without further ado, we can get into the welcoming of everyone. So first of all, welcome to our participants and welcome to our panelists. It's very, very lovely to have you here tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days, I'm sure, for being here. So let me just get through some housekeeping matters. We'll introduce myself and then the panelists, as well as get it right into the discussion with the five key themes we'll get through today, and then open up the Q&A section for some questions straight from you guys to our panelists, and then get into the announcements about the certificates of completion, because I know a lot of people have been asking. So we'll answer those questions as well as have a super cool announcement for those connecting from the northern parts of Europe, so the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. Please stay tuned to the end because we have special something coming up for that group. Okay, so I think we have a lot of people joining already. So let's get started. So very quickly, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Paulina. I'm very, very happy to be here with you guys tonight. I am the Regional Hubs and the Community Engagement Coordinator at the Ocean Project, World Ocean Day. I'm Polish originally, based in The Hague now, and as many of us tonight, interested in ocean issues, ocean challenges from the policy side, but also from the advocacy and youth engagement side. But this is more about our speakers tonight. So let me first introduce you to Gray Gowder. And I think it might be better if we hear from himself. So please, Gray, if you can take a minute or two to introduce yourself, that would be lovely.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I am thrilled to be able to share a little bit about what I've learned through being an impact producer for documentary films, and what I've learned in building the Carolina Ocean Alliance as an organization that is dedicated to creating agency for people at a community level to be the change they want to see in the world through impact events. And so appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to everything we can learn from you, especially the Hope Summit is something that sounds like a lot of planning was needed to organize. So looking forward to it. And we also have Amrita Agro-Androv for joining us tonight. So please, Amrita, the floor is yours to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Paulina, and huge thank you to the old Ocean Project team for having me tonight. My name is Umbretta Groendrov. I split my time between Miami, Florida, and Turin, Italy. So, ocean and mountains. I come from the art world. I've been a curator and a cultural producer for the past 25 years. And when I moved to Miami in 2013, my love for the ocean exploded once again. And so I created a platform called Art Sale about 10 years ago now that really brings together artists with scientists, climate activists, and marine experts to look at how climate change and pollutions are impacting our waterways. And we work with a variety of projects, bringing in communities and the science and the arts to talk about ocean issues, but not just the issues, the solutions. And so it's really about storytelling, it's about community building, and it's about taking care of and protecting what we love. So I really appreciate the chance to be with you tonight and share what I can about what I've been doing and how I do it.
Thank you so much. And before we get into the questions, Umberta has this very special video for us to screen share quickly to give some context to the event she's been organizing for some time now. And I will go ahead and show it to you, and then we can get right into the questions. So enjoy this for 3 minutes.
Ocean Art Sale and Blue Scholars Initiative. We hosted a jam-packed week filled with multidisciplinary events, all dedicated to protecting and celebrating our one world ocean. We did it 100 swimmers to celebrate World Ocean Day. You're just going to find the bare patches and plant, take them all the way up and lift. For leading this whole group of kids just learning how to swim. Each year, we host a series of art workshops with youth from 3 community organizations, each creating artwork that's featured throughout the festival. Tonight's winner, Orlando! Give it up for these storytellers. This celebration isn't just about the sea. It's about people. The kind of people who care enough to show up, learn, share stories, and protect what matters.
It's just great to be a part of it. Everybody wants and also needs for the oceans to be clean and for all the animals in the oceans to be saved and preserved in one way or another.
We are here today at Biscayne National Park. We are going out to Boca Chica Key to do a debris cleanup. Just followed our week. And we have 170 pounds. Art Sale is all about bringing art into the climate conversation. We collaborated with Miami-based artist Laura Shapiro, who designed the ocean flags using maritime signal code. They were creating sand relief projects on the beach using these artistic tools that I created based on Art Deco architecture. Great has been a lawful, and so what we're trying to do is create different areas of protection. We saw one of those big rays twice. We saw many angelfish. We're so excited about the Shears of the Ocean platform because it really gives us the opportunity to bring community, to listen to their stories, to get inspired, to learn from them, but most importantly, to connect them to each other. Join us and keep the ocean celebration alive year-round.
Perfect. I hope that really set the tone for tonight's discussion. Thank you very much, Umberta, for sharing that with us. If you
You.
don't have anything to add after that, we can get straight into the questions. But I should have asked our participants to count how many events, different events have been happening in that one video, just to give you a taste. But to get right into the questions, let's start with the more theoretical approach to events before getting down to the specificities of the event planning itself. So as we know, event planning is more than just the one day, the one weekend where your special event is going to happen. It's usually about cultivating a movement, cultivating a campaign, supporting one, creating one, co-creating one. Tell us more. How can an event planning be used as a tool to shift narratives, create collective power, drive conservation action in the long term, um, apart from that one day? If anyone from our speakers would like to take the first question, go ahead.
I'm happy to go since we just watched that short video. So, for me, I guess coming from the art world, I've only always seen advocacy being part of storytelling. I'm a visual person. I always found that the power of arts and culture to communicate issues that are often hard and gloomy and not necessarily easy to communicate um, we're able to break through the beautiful power communication of the arts. And so for me, coming from an artistic background and then bringing in this joy that I rediscovered by the ocean, it was a very organic way of finding to use the tools that I knew, which was about, again, advocacy through storytelling, and get communities engaged to create an event that would touch upon a variety of ways that people can connect with the ocean. So, from more intellectual ways to more get dirty or better get wet and in the sand and in the water, and to connect and find the entry point that really has an impact with everyone. And what I find that is most effective, it's really about teaching people by showing, by doing, never pointing fingers, never, coming from a didactic point of way of pretending to teach something, but just be there, show by example, have fun. I think fun and engagement activities are a huge part of what we do, about bringing people in instead of pushing people away. And I think by doing these kind of events, throughout the year, it's a way to keep the communities that you capture with that one time engaged and hopefully sustain that engagement, for the longer term.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing. I think having fun is a big one here. Please, Gray, if you have anything to add.
Absolutely. I think the point Umbretta was making about being able to speak to a specific audience is so important, and knowing who that audience is will greatly shape the way we tell our story. And I find immersive and experiential storytelling to be exceptionally powerful in these kind of spaces, ways that people can build those empathetic connections. And so, like Umbretta was saying, it's not didactic. It's not us saying it at them. It's them being able to hear it, to internalize it, to understand the issue, the story, the thing that we're hoping to share with them. And in the case of the Hope Summit, we try to offer a variety of different experiences for people over that one weekend, but extend that story of community-driven solutions, of bottom-up and middle-out change that is so important, through a variety of different genre and form of events that meets people where they are and helps to internalize patterns of of building curiosity, of learning. And in the case of our salt marsh stewardship work, it's building patterns of people going to this tidal creek so that they're shaping a relationship with that waterway and are building that internal culture of care for that place.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if anything came up from both of you was audience and immersion in those spaces, which are two things that are definitely very important to keep in mind when planning or even conceptualizing the event, because this goes beyond the planning of the event. Thank you. And so we talked about conceptualization and what's important to keep in mind when planning the event, but as you know, the care and the motivation and the sustainability of the event after it's over, after the day, the weekend, the week is over, is extremely important as well to keep that momentum going, to not let that go. So if you could tell us what are some effective ways you found to be effective, sorry, to continue the momentum, keep the engagement within the people you reached and turn this one-time attendance to long-term advocates and hopefully inspire the people that attended.
Well, for us, with the work that we do through the Creek Collective, through the Hope Summit, through our other advocacy work, it really is about maintaining that relationship with our audience members. And so it's not enough for us to just give them that standalone experience at the Hope Summit. It's about building relationships, building community for them in that space, so that they're not only finding the agency that they're looking for to be a change in an area that they care about, they're also finding a community of individuals that make them feel seen, that make them feel capable of reaching what they're inspired to do. And the most important part of this for us is we're trying to tell a story of the ecological definition of community, of all living things that support and sustain each other within a shared place. And so helping people to discover that experience of being part of an ecology where they don't have to solve all the world's problems alone. They can find that community of people who can allow them to use that unique gift, that passion that they have as part of a group to create transformative change, or they find their counterpart in another community that they can exchange ideas with. It's about building that excitement to continue learning, to continue growing, and kind of rekindle that flame of inspiration and love that so many of us have when we're very young, and that gradually gets dimmed by whether it's school, whether it's the harshness that we may experience in the world, or the isolation that may come in actually doing the work for a long period of time. And so for us, it's about how can we make that flame shine bright again.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes me think of all the events that I attended that made me feel that way. Thank you. Umbretta, please let us know what worked for you in the long term.
Well, everything that Grace said makes absolutely sense. And one of the best comments that I've heard actually multiple times after our World Ocean Celebration Festival is that it feels like summer camp for grown-ups. So it's like this 10 days of like super cool activities, and you're going to see all your friends and do it all over again over the next day, whether it's dancing at a concert or watching some ocean themed films or listening to friends sharing ocean stories. And so it's that kind of excitement that we want to capture and keep throughout the year. So this year, for example, our partners in Blue Scholars and ourselves decided to keep some engagement. So every couple of months we did something. So whether it was a Shearers of the Ocean panel with some art performances that connected people to the beach and to the ocean. Whether it was film screenings. So it's about, working towards that one big event that we do every year, but then keep that momentum going by creating events so that people are connected. And, social media is a big part of it. Because obviously we have limited resources and time and focus. So we would like to do more, but we understand that we are limited. And so I think keeping people engaged through your social media accounts, sharing stories, knowledge, flashback to different events, or kind of building momentum and excitement for what's to come. It's a big part of what we do.
And
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
and to add one more thing onto that, I mean what Umbrella was saying was so important because I think we need to make sure that we're giving people a call to action, we're giving them tools, we're giving them a way to continue this work because we saw the real consequences of so many documentary films and environmental communicators for the last 20 years making people genuinely concerned about issues, but not giving them something to do. And that's created a culture of depression, of cynicism, of nihilism, even. And it's our responsibility as storytellers, as conveners, as people who can kindle that hope, that agency, that we're making sure that whether that work is with us or it's with our partners who have been very visible at our event, that we're giving people something that they can go out into the world and do.
Definitely. I see Amrita agreeing as well with what you mentioned. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It really sounds like the thing that really worked for both of you, and I'm assuming for everyone else that's organizing as successful events as yours, is the tapping into the emotional aspect and really the call for passion that needs to arise from each of the individuals that join your events and the events that inspire most. Okay, so now that we have set the scene for what we ideally would like to achieve, could you please help our youth leaders in training know how to achieve that? What the planning phase is important in achieving what you mentioned, into creating that emotional connection, emotional passion, but also bringing us closer to the tools needed to achieve that and to conserve our ocean in the future. So, without further ado, into the next part of our questions, let's enter the planning phase, the very nuts and grits of organizing the event, which goes beyond just the conceptualizations. So, could you tell us what are some of the key first steps into turning the idea into a well-structured event or campaign that's worked for you?
Well, I would say for me, I guess coming again as my background as a freelance curator, and so every project I did in my 25 years of career, even before stepping into the ocean conservation space, was through collaborations. And so team building, it's really a key aspect of really pretty much everything I've ever done and I've ever accomplished. And so I think understanding what are your strengths and your weaknesses, even more important than your strength, and finding team members and partners that can compensate and that have complementary skill sets so that you can create a team that it's well equipped to reach the result that you want to achieve. And often that result changes and morphs. At least I know that we certainly weren't setting up and doing a 10-day festival when we started this 6 years ago, and this thing kind of organically grew, and you grow with it, right? You grow with your project. So understanding your limits, finding strength in the team members that you're able to work with. um, you know be humble and listen to what other people have to say. I often find that I'm so close to this thing called art sale and this thing called World Ocean Celebration, that I need someone with fresh eyes and new ideas to come and maybe even say things that are not necessarily what I want to hear. But I keep reminding me to keep myself open, because I don't know it all. And I think because we all understand that to affect the change that we are looking for in a larger scale, it really takes a village. And so understanding that everybody plays a part, everybody has something interesting and good to say. You might agree or not agree, but keep yourself open, and just see that magic can happen. And many times you find that magic in very unexpected places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is definitely something we'll be delving into in the next slides as well. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Great. Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
So I appreciate the magic and unexpected places part because that's a core part of the process that I try to explore with this. When I was a documentary filmmaker, working more on the production side instead of on the outreach, engagement, and impact side, I leaned very heavily into an important lesson I got from one of my film professors. It was a directing professor who said that for any of us to tell a really good story, we need to have our thematic statement. What was that core idea distilled down to its most simple form? That can become the filter through which all questions and opportunities for that project can pass. And I think if you really know what it is that you want to say, whether that's an event that's going to be a one-off and it's drawing attention to one particular issue, or it's something where you want to work for many years to build up a larger story and be able to lead towards more of a societal change. It's extremely important to know what you want to say, what you want people to hear and connect with, and from there you can begin discovering, okay, who's the team of people I can have around me who would be willing to support this, because that's how you're starting to think about, okay, what does a budget for this even look like, and then from there understanding what is my venue, because a lot of times your venue is very much going to shape the experience of that project as well. And for example, when we created the first Hope Summit, we realized that a lot of the nonprofits in our area didn't have a lot of familiarity between their coordinators, their program directors, and we wanted to make sure that we were all working together. We were all working in a collaborative effort instead of in isolation. And so we had no budget, but we invited a few dozen nonprofits with tents and tables to set up in a farmer's market like arrangement in a brewery parking lot to be able to meet with the public as the world was opening back up after the pandemic. And over a few hours, as they were speaking with the public, they overheard their neighbor who was strategically placed next to them because of the familiar kind of work that they were doing, saying things that sounded a lot like the work that they were doing. And people loved that connection so much on the professional side, but also on the public side of discovering groups they might not have been familiar with, that it became an opportunity for us to expand with an in-person conference at the local college, but eventually to our local museum, which allowed us to have a film festival, allowed us to continue expanding our community festival. And this year will allow us to make our event a hybrid event so that we can have both virtual and in-person attendees. And so it's gradual and intentional growth while still understanding at the heart of it what story we're trying to tell, what our core theme is, and from there we're able to take advantage of those happy accidents, those bits of magic, those opportunities that we can't possibly plan for, but can open up ways of enhancing the experience for our attendees and for our speakers and panelists in ways that we couldn't have even dreamed of.
Thank you. Thank you both for sharing. I think both of you mentioned the importance of knowing the realia you're facing. You mentioned the venue, but also your strength and weaknesses, where you come from, what position you're willing to take, what groups you're operating with. And actually, both of you mentioned the importance of having a team and having a group of people that you're working with and you're comfortable in working with and creating, the events that you mentioned. So, do you have any advice for assembling a team? Or Brett already set the stage with sharing that a complementary skill set of your team members is an advantage. But is there anything else you think is important, or would you like to build on that idea? but also, to read the question, how to balance the leadership with collaboration. These are two things that should synergize, but as we all know, it might be challenging. So how do you make it work basically? How do you assemble a team and how do you execute your event?
Well, I think, for me, that shared theme is a way of everyone kind of understanding what we're working on, and then they're able to then use their own unique brilliance to interpret that and bring it to life in the unique way that they can. And so I want to bring in people, first of all, that I know that I like, and that that will work well together under high stress situations. But I also want people who are infinitely smarter and more skilled than me at things that I recognize are shortfalls of my own abilities. And in the end, we're building a village to do these events. We're building that core community who will allow us to transcend, beyond what we alone are capable of doing. But it's also good to have this team of people for your own sanity, for your own well-being as well, because it's insane to try to do one of these events alone. And so, just in being kind to yourself, it's really good to be willing to welcome the assistance of people who are volunteering their expertise.
Thank you very much. Greta, what would you like to share
Yeah,
with us?
I love the concept of being kind to yourself because I think often we tend to be, at least I know I tend to be very harsh and hypercritical of myself. So I definitely have to keep reminding me that. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with what Grace said. I think it's really is a combination of having being laser focused on the end goal and the mission. Um, but also be able to delegate. I know as a freelance curator, I'm so used to wear so many different hats because I'm often a content creator, but I'm also the marketer, I'm the fundraiser, and I think we were kind of used to do it all. Sometimes maybe because we just don't have the budget to be able to hire people with all these different skill sets. So you kind of become really good at being a jack of all trade and a little build expertise in all these different places. But I find that when we are in a position to hire professional who have obviously maybe more experience, and as Grace said, be humble, understand, hire people who are much smarter than you are and can bring in, a lot of what you cannot, and just let go, delegate, understand that other, people are able to do their job and take responsibility, and that way you can free up your time to maybe focus on something else that that you find more congenial to you and to your skill set and to or just something that you enjoy more. I mean, I have to say I hate fundraising. I wish I could spend 80% of my time in content building and 20% on fundraising, but unfortunately it's the opposite. But the moment I find someone who can really help with fundraising, take it all. I'm happy to delegate as much as possible.
Thank you, and thank you for foreshadowing the fundraising because this is something we'll definitely have to get into as well throughout this call. But thank you so much for the reminder about being kind to yourself. I think it resonates with everyone who's ever thought of planning an event. It's very easy and a slippery slope to criticize yourself when you're already getting yourself out there, already planning an event that's not for yourself. It's for everyone else. It's to spread what we all advocate for. I think it's also important to highlight the fact that, as you both mentioned, we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. We should instead rely on people and make it something that you're proud of, something that you can use for future references, but also to help make that event come to life. Um, but that is also related to expanding the team and going beyond just the organizing team. When an event comes to life, it usually includes various stakeholders and not just the organizers. but also the everyone we are working with. And one of the issues a lot of events come face to is the fragmentation when it comes to ensuring that a vision, a purpose is clear between all the stakeholders. That might also be something to address beforehand, but also while planning the event. So how do you ensure that the purpose, the goal, the motivations of the event you're planning resonates with everyone included? And if it's not the same purpose or the same vision, how do you make sure to realign it and help against that fragmentation?
Should I go?
Please,
I'll take
anyone who has idea
it.
how to solve
I'll
this
take it.
issue.
I'll take a crack. So I can say for my side again, I come from the art world, and one aspect that I really, really appreciate about the environmental and ocean conservation space in Miami is that I feel that there is a real understanding that we're all uh, quite literally on the same boat, and we all work for a much higher purpose that is just bigger than any of us individually, both as individual or as individual organizations. And so I feel that because of that understanding, when we started working together with the Blue Scholars Initiative and started inviting all these different nonprofits in Miami to engage with us and create this beautiful festival, it became a very organic process. We knew what we wanted to do, and we knew we wanted to connect people with the ocean, make them fall in love with this beautiful blue planet, and each one of us had was able to contribute because of the many activities that we all were differently doing to join together and join forces and make this a much more impactful event that any of us could have done individually. And so for us, I think it was again a very organic way to connect. And once you start bringing the communities together, again, for us was about let's have fun together. What is it that we can do, that we can offer people that will reel them in? And as Gray pointed out, I think one of the negative aspects of the environmental advocacy in the 60s and 70s was about this kind of doom and gloom scenarios that were ended up just pushing people away. And I love the name that the Hope Summit, because every event that we do, every project that I do, every exhibition, every panel, every whatever it is, we want to leave people on a high note. We want to give them tools, to give them agency, to make them understand how can they, at an individual level, a community level, at the city level, how can they contribute? Give them the tools to understand that they have agency, that there is hope. Because unless we do that, then we really are screwed. And I think that over the last few years, there has been a huge shift in the environmental space towards that. And I think that we all, are playing a big role and a big part into this, which is essential again to really affect the change that we need to in the short time that we have left.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great, please.
Absolutely, yes, I completely agree with all of that, and and for me, it just comes back to kind of understanding that core theme, that core idea, because another lesson from film school that I had is when we're working with our actors, when we're working with the people who are going to be experiencing this shared creative journey, we need to create the sandbox for them. So create that defining edge for us to be able to innovate and create within. And so when we're doing that, when we're creating a compelling outline or template within which our partners can see themselves, and they can say, oh, this is what we would really like to add to this. It removes a lot of the mystery and the ambiguity that can lead to the fragmentation, as you said, or to it feeling like it's lacking that kind of cohesion that you really need. And so I guess for me, I think having a really clear uh, program concept or plan that I can then go out and pitch to partners and understand their work well enough to be able to say we love all of these things that you're doing. Do you have something that you really want to highlight in this under this theme or part of this panel or an activity within our community festival or an entirely separate one-on-one collaboration doing something outside of the Hope Summit as well. I think it's as much about us understanding what we're doing as it is understanding what our partners are all about and what they're trying to do there.
Hmm. Thank you. Yeah, thank you both for your knowledge. I think the establishing aspect of where we all stand, where we all begin, and what we all want is quite an important one. It obviously is very nice when we all can do it cohesively and intrinsically, but that is, well, not always the case, but definitely the communications aspect, as you both mentioned, is an important one. And I think that's a good transition to asking what role do partnerships and collaborations with these stakeholders or with the partners you establish can play in amplifying the impact? How do we go just beyond the one man, one person show and tap into that shared community, as Umberto was saying, the hopeful one. Sorry about that.
Well, for me, I mean, especially that second half of the question of what can a young person do to begin building and maintaining those relationships, it's understand what you want to add to the community network, to that community ecology. What is your niche that you want to add to that? Because if you understand what you're bringing to the table or understand the gaps that currently exist that you're uniquely situated to fill or the connections you could make between organizations that naturally have this opportunity to do something cool that's just not being realized for whatever reason, maybe a lack of familiarity. That's where that really that potential is really prominent because a lot of folks are working extremely hard within their limited bandwidth, within their limited programmatic scope, and when we give them a chance not only to uh, build community within the people who are within the same discipline they're in, but begin overlapping with people from other fields, other disciplines that may be doing things that are aligned, but would allow them to see their work in a new perspective. That's where real transformative change and excitement comes from. So, in the first part of that question, what role do they play? It's an all of the above kind of thing. It's understanding who these partners are and understanding what the appropriate ask is for that partner. Is that partner better to contribute, direct financially or through their own unique, board member or corporate partnership to help with funding? Or are they a group that has a large network of passionate people who are your audience for this that they can connect you to? Or do they have access to a location? Do they have access to, any number of things that you need? And so when it is like, okay, how do we piece this thing together? It's like building a Lego. It's like, how do we piece all of these things together? But you've got all these mismatched parts that are eventually going to form this beautiful whole. That's when it becomes exciting. But it's really interesting or really important to think about, how is this a reciprocal relationship? What am I providing them? So it's not just me asking,
Mhm.
for something that's solely transactional or one-sided. Like what am I adding or what am I creating for them that makes it worth uh, their credibility and resources being tied to what I'm offering?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean the filling of the gaps is a quite important one, and the avoiding the transactional aspect is definitely something I'm taking away from this. Roberta, is there anything that you think should be mentioned here as well?
I think Grace said it all. I would only add, on the second part of that question, volunteer, try different things. Never be afraid to ask questions. I think that's so important, when you do something new, you try something new. Never shy away from asking questions. There's something that is not quite clear, that doesn't feel right, that you're just not certain about. Never be afraid of it. None of us was born knowing what, to do what we're doing. And I think, well, what I at least I find so exciting about, the work that I do now is that it's a continuous learning process. We learn from each other. We learn from our partners, from our friends, from those who we get along and those who we don't. We love, we learn from our sponsors. We learn to understand how we can do better by talking to our communities. And so, as someone who's young and, maybe still a student or just starting to work in the space, um, look around, try different things. Sometimes you feel you have a calling and things don't quite work out. Don't knock yourself down. Just keep exploring, keep doing things. And again, just never be afraid to ask questions or to think that you're stupid if you're asking, one extra question. I learned that the hard way. And it was a good lesson to learn. Instead of, pretending that you know it all and then screwing up big time, better to ask twice and then make sure that you get it right the first time around.
Thank you. Thank you for those reminders. I think you're bringing such a humane and understanding and emotional aspect to event planning, which can be seen as quite well, well, not emotional for some, but the execution of it definitely makes it worth it. So thank you for those reminders. But to get into something a bit less exciting for some, but an opportunity to really take your event to the next level and really scale it, if that's where you're at with yours. If you could tell us more about the budgeting and the sponsoring. A lot of youth, this is often a barrier for youth, as we know, both the youth and the ocean sectors are quite underfunded currently, and with everything that's going on, is not making it any easier. What are some advice you could give our youth who are just starting out in those fields? They're often grassroots after underfunded. What are some tips? What are some help you would give to youth with limited resources? How to access the tools necessary? And what advice do you have for applying and sponsorships?
Well, I would say, start by just looking around, see who's, which is your local bank, your community bank. They might have an interest in supporting something that you're doing at a very grassroots local level because those are the people that, might become their clients. And so, the local restaurants who might be willing to offer some in-kind sponsorship for an event. I mean, the more you can get in kind, obviously, the less means you're looking for cash to pay for services. And so sometimes it's easier to find, again, businesses that are willing to offer whatever it is that they do or they create or they produce, versus writing a check. And so for us, that has been, a huge help, really connecting to the businesses that are directly impacted, or they're impacting the communities that we're working with, and see how we can create this beautiful network of partners to work together and create something together, give them exposure, and let them, have the spotlight, and in that way we kind of serve each other. And as Gray was saying, you build that network, and you kind of help each other by giving each other exposure, and giving each other help. Sponsorship, as I said, I hate fundraising, but it's been, part of my entire professional life. I wish I could say it gets easier. I don't think it ever does. I think what happens, you get better, you get more comfortable, like as anything else, right? It's like muscle memory. You become more comfortable making a pitch. You're becoming better at making a presentation. You're becoming better at reading when you're, sitting hopefully across the table, and unfortunately often across the computer, because now in-person meetings are getting rarer and rarer, and trying to understand, okay, so what is it that this company or this person is interested. Do your homework before you get to that meeting. Understand what is it that this company is interested in. What is it that I'm doing with my project, with my event, with my campaign, that I can offer them to sweeten the pie and just make it more interesting and appealing for them to support us, and really nurture those relationships. Try to maybe start asking for a small amount or for a small type of support, and then build that trust. Invite them to attend the project. Hopefully, get them excited about being part of something really cool and fun and interesting. And then slowly find that champion from within that can really be the champion for your cause, and slowly build that trust and build a relationship. And maybe $1,000 today can become $10,000 2 or 3 years down the line. But again, it just never gets easier, but I think you just become more comfortable with the whole process.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I think this is something we can all agree on. Great. Do you have anything else to add on this rite of passage for all organizers?
Well, I think that was expertly said in so many ways, and I know for me, like the greatest way to trigger my imposter syndrome is having me go and try and ask somebody for money. And so the way to get around that, and I know that I'm not alone in feeling this way, but when you really understand the program, the event, the thing it is that you're trying to put into the world, and your audience, in this case, who it is that you're pitching this to, you realize that, oh, I'm not asking them to give me money. I'm asking them to invest in this experience, in this change, in this opportunity to do something in the community that's meaningful. And so it's not that awkward, please give me money kind of thing that is so hard for all of us to do, when we're able to take ourselves out of it and just really be proud of this concept that we are shepherding, that we're representing in that case. And so this is something that certainly takes time to build those relationships. And not only do you get better at pitching over time, you also get a more familiar, or you get a more friendly audience over time too, as you're going back to the same people and saying, hey, we're going to do this again, and they had such a great experience hopefully with you the last time, and you were a wonderful, respectful, grateful partner of them the last time they gave you resources as well, and made them feel like it was good value, and so they're going to support you again, most likely. But it is about finding that way of understanding who it is that you're speaking to, and what it is about your event, about the issue, about something about it that would appeal directly to them, so it feels like you've taken the time and the care to think about them as a human being, not just someone you can extract those resources from. And Umbretta's point about in-kind donations is so important, because chances are you're not going to have the massive budget that you want for your first few events. And so figuring out how to do it in a lean and effective way and piece together the things that cost a lot of money, but through donated time, donated resources, donated spaces, figuring out how you can enhance the experience of the place. And so if you've got an interior designer that has showroom furniture or something like that, and you can make a really beautiful stage and have someone who, is a camera operator who can film that space with this beautiful backdrop, with people telling compelling stories on that stage, that gives you something that you can show that next round of sponsors, donors, grant administrators. And so it's figuring out, okay, in this community that I'm building, how can I find those ways of really adding the special and kind of intangible aspects that
Mhm.
get taken for granted when they're there, but you really miss them when they're not. And food
Thank
is
you.
like food is an exceptional example of that. Like when people have a chance to come together around food, to build community around food, and it's good food that feels like it has care and love in it, that people remember that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all these really great tips. And thank you so much for expanding beyond the financial aspect, financial realm, which we often, lock ourselves in when we think of budgeting, but it is indeed so much more than that. It can be as much as food or drink, or a venue, or again, asking a restaurant or a filmmaker, really engaging the people around you physically, but also online, who can come together and do this together. So thank you very, very much. And this does give us hope for budgeting and fundraising to be something indeed achievable. So thank you. And before we get into the next questions, I would just kindly ask our participants if you have any questions to please put them in the chat so that we can answer them right after the slide. I see one is here already from Chidubem. So thank you for posting that, and we'll get right into it after this one. Okay, so now that we've reached the final slide of the presentation itself about implementation adaptation, something quite fitting to do at the end. I can ask our presenters, how do you stay organized throughout the planning process and make sure everything runs smoothly? As we know, it is rare that everything runs smoothly up until the last minute, but how do you also approach those things that don't go right at the last minute? How do you troubleshoot these changes? If I can ask you to do that under a minute or two, so we can get to the Q&A, that would be really amazing. So thank you.
I would say plan as much as you can. Try to think about all the worst case scenarios, because chances are that something from those worst case scenarios are going to come through. And think about what the solutions are for the worst case scenarios. And because then there's something else is going to happen, but at least you're prepared with for maybe 80% of what can go wrong. Plan as much as you can, but also keep yourself open to things that might not go in the way that you were thinking they should go, because that might be a blessing in disguise. And so just don't panic. Surround yourself with people who you trust, because they're the ones who are going to help you to get through those difficult and challenging times when things don't go as planned. And just keep working with your team, keep really building that beautiful trust and ability to delegate and make sure that each one of you have a specific role, but also being able to understand and kind of step in, to filling each other's role if for whatever reason you get sick the night before the big event and someone else has to take that space for you. So be open, be smart, and plan as much as you can, but also don't panic and breathe deeply.
And yes to all of that. I think communication is such a key aspect of this as well. And just a more technical look at it. I live off of of like spreadsheets and run of show maps and all these different kinds of things. But if you're running a conference or a music festival or an event that has a run of show, I think having that clearly mapped out and having every single member of your team familiar with the most up to date copy of that is really useful, because if everyone understands kind of what the flow is, then we can respond, we can be proactive, and if need be, we can change things up as we go.
That sounds very promising. Thank you for those last minute tips again for when you reach the last stage, the execution of your event. So obviously there are things that will happen that we will never be able to control, but as Umberta said, planning the 80% of unexpected events is already a great way to get started. So thank you very, very much for the discussion part of our webinar. I think we've learned a great amount of things from both our speakers. So thank you once again for being here. And I'll take a second to ask the participants, if there's anything specific you would like to know from our panelists available to answer your questions today. I see one in the Q&A. If one of you would like to take it, Umberto or Gray, or please do both, but I would read it out. Chilubem is asking about a specific situation that I think also could be applied to many of us. So he seems to get a lot of notifications on platforms such as LinkedIn about organizations or individuals that seem to be interested in the work the organization does. It's called Youth for Just Energy Transition. However, there is not much more engagement going on from there. It seems like the engagement ends at just looking at the profile. And he's asking, is it a sign that the organization is getting a strong momentum, or is it a motivation to do more, to do the outreach ourselves? What do you think?
I think, it's good to get noticed, but we can't put too much weight into, what social media analytics or things like that show. I think it's really important to uh, build what you're doing really well and continue kind of um, staying true to what you are doing in a very authentic way. And if you've got that buy-in from local partners, from people who come back to work with you over and over, eventually these other uh, outside partnerships will show up if it's appropriate. But I think it's more important to really focus on who are those core groups that are going to be there for a long time, and how can you build momentum where you've got your relationships already.
Thank you for that. I really hope that will help our participants and those that are in similar situations. Sam is asking, what is the best first step to get started? I think it's quite similar to one of the questions we've answered at the very beginning, but Fred, if you'd like to take that one, please do.
Sure. Well, so it depends what is it that you're interested in starting, obviously. And so I would say, make sure you have a clear idea about what is that? Is that a nonprofit working on, ocean conservation from tackling from this side or that side or that side? I mean, ocean conservation is obviously it's a very big umbrella. So I think the clearer your idea is about your objectives and your mission, the easier it's going to be for you to get there. Once you understand exactly what is it that you want, where is it that you want to get, then look around, as Gray was saying, who are the local partners, local stakeholders that you might be able to join forces with that can help you to get to that objective. Is there maybe already an organization that would like to do what you're you're envisioning to do. And maybe that's an organization you want to partner with, or maybe you want to volunteer or try to get a job with them and understand how is it that they do what they do. And be humble and be a go-getter, and be ready and available to do different things. Don't get yourself exploited, but don't be afraid to volunteer. I mean, I know when I was much younger, any occasion I had to volunteer in different spaces, I would take, because that would give me the chance to meet people, to network, to build experience, and then to based on that experience, then be able to be stronger and get to a place where I feel that I can actually offer something. So I would say, do your homework, have a very clear idea about what is it that you want to do, and find partners at the local level that you can work with and you can establish connections and relationship with, and you can grow with.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that really extended even beyond the first step. So you really gave us a clear path on how to get engaged. Thank you for that. I think we're reaching perfectly the end of the webinar, but before we say goodbye, I have a few things to announce. First of all, a lot of people have been asking about the certificates of completion. This is something that we've been doing to support youth, to recognize the voluntary involvement you've been doing. You've been, granting your time to this. No one is, making you join these 4 sessions. So thank you, first of all, for joining and doing that. About the certificates, the link will be sent in a follow-up email to those you've received previously in the week of March 30th. And if you submit a completed feedback survey by April 18th, you'll be able to receive your certificate in the mail. And it's a pretty nice PDF document you can reuse. And we've been doing that for a while now, supporting youth. And if there's any specific questions you have, please email the email you see here. It's the same one you've seen on previous slides from previous sessions as well. So do not hesitate to do that. If you'd like to hear more about the youth leadership training, but also youth advisory council, join our next cycle. It will be, as always, on the verge of October and November this year. So do that. If you'd like to hear from other speakers, we engage. Lastly, as World Ocean Day is approaching, slowly but surely, all of us are definitely in the first phases we spoke about today. Make sure to use the posters, events, planning toolkits, as well as the world map and calendar if you'd like to promote and get any support you need with planning your events. These are free resources available for you to use on the World Ocean Day website. There's multiple languages as well. You can use for the posters, for example. So we try to tailor it as much as possible to local events and regional events. So make sure to check those out. They are quite nice to use, and it's always nice to have something to get started with. And as I promised towards the end, towards the beginning of the call, I will share a very exciting announcement about for those living or those based in Northern Europe, which is the countries you can see on the map here below. So if you live or are based or have any interest in those countries and the region, the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, please join our next youth leadership training, the Northern European Seas one, where we'll gather speakers and issues specific towards these two regions, or these regions as we combine them. This will happen from the 23rd of May to the 13th of June, so also on the throughout World Ocean Day. So if you have one commitment you'd like to do for the ocean that week, make it joining the Northern European Seas Youth Leadership Training. We're hoping to expand to many, many more regions around the world. If that's something you're also interested in doing or helping or supporting in any way you wish, please also send an email to the address you see right here. Keep an eye out for the registration link, as it will be in your inbox, and in the survey we will ask if you're interested in joining this one, this leadership training as well. If there is no further questions or anything else to mention, I'd like to thank everyone for joining, starting with our speakers. Thank you very, very much, Ambretta, and thank you very, very much, Gray. It's been really, really, really amazing to hear from you and inspire everyone, especially the last youth leadership training before World Ocean Day. So thank you for giving us a lot of hope with everything you've said. Best of luck to both of you, and we will be keeping an eye out for what you're doing. And thank you to the participants very, very much as well. I know everyone is joining from very different parts of the world, so and thank you for all the time you give to this program. And with that, I will end the webinar. I will stop sharing and let everyone get back to their day or to the beginning of your planning of the event. Thank you very,
Thank you
very
so
much.
much, Paulina and Gray. It's been a true pleasure and an honor. And as usual, I learned so much tonight. So I am thankful to you.
Well, thank you. Been a pleasure learning from you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with this amazing group of emerging leaders that we have in our audience today as well.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you at the next one.
Great. Well, that was fun. Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate being a part of this with both of y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Same
as
here.
well.
Paulina, you did such a fantastic job.
Thank you very,
Congratulations.
very much.
It's not easy to, make sure that, you move things along and everything was on time. So, really great job. And Gray, loved your insights, and I hope to have the chance to meet you in person soon.